Friends, thank you for watching my channel. I just want to remind you, if you need wallpaper, go to www.wallpaperboulevard.com. Tell them Spencer sent you. In fact, if you use my hashtag, Spencer Colgan is wallpaper, they'll be sure to give you a 10% off at your checkout. No matter how much you order, they have a wide selection of wallpaper. Check it out. Tell them I said hello. This is Spencer Colgan, and welcome back to my wallpaper and painting channel on YouTube. In this video, I'll be painting. And it's something that a lot of do-it-yourselfers do on a greater percentage as do-it-yourselfers than those who hang wallpaper. There are more people who will have a pro hang wallpaper than there are those who will hire a pro to do painting. And so I'm really not speaking to the pro because he or she knows what they're doing already, you know? But I have a brother who just painted his house. And rather than go to my videos, he texted me all of his questions, which was fine. But I realize when I get my next painting video, I'm going to renew and refresh my skills for the folks who watch my channel, because this procedure that I'm going to show you is already on my channel. But nonetheless, this video will probably get 1,000 views within 30 days. Just saying, that's not a lot for many painting channels, but the painting videos get a lot more looks. Now, there is an old wives' tale in painting that one doesn't need to use tape, painter's tape. I can tell you that I disagree with that. There are two kinds of painters out there that are called professional. One is the painter who likes to work 7 hours and run home and do nothing for the rest of the day. And then there are other painters, like many on YouTube, who really take a lot of pride in their work. And I think I'm one of them, I really do. So not only is paint going to be used in this video, but other tools as well. I know in some countries you can't get caulk in clear. I know this is white, but DAP is not available for the folks in the UK. But, clear caulk. But it is here, and it's one of the tools I use in order to plug the tape from getting bleeding paint underneath it, particularly with dark colors. You're going to want to use that. Now, since I began using the tape and caulk procedure, there is a technology out there that has painter's tape. Now, this is not it. What I'm referring to while I speak, there is tape that expands when it gets wet. And if you can't get your hands on clear caulk, that will seal the edge of the tape so that paint definitely doesn't get underneath it. Then you may want to try a tape that enlarges when it gets wet, acting as the caulk procedure that I'm going to show you in this video. It's all about keeping the paint from getting underneath the tape. Why do we use tape? So that you can paint a straight line. Some painters will say, that take forever. Well, that's a painter who's very conscious about time and production. That's not going to fly in a $3 million house. It just doesn't fly, that mentality. But if that's your thing, that's fine. That might fly in your building or your maintenance job, and I'm not Please, I'm not being condescending. But what I'm showing you is high-end finesse painting. What is that? High-end finesse painting is, you call a painter in, and it's going to be everything just short of perfection. Because I've learned to say, people are not perfect, but their work looks perfect and mine looks perfect. But people aren't perfect. But you have to do to the best of your ability. There are painters who just don't do to the best of their ability. And they do what's good enough, okay? So that's not this channel. For every paint job, I get a brand new brush, okay? And you can't beat the quality of the filaments of a brand new, you can't beat it. The brush that you used at the last job, this is how it looks. I'll show you one. In fact, it's the one I bought for the last job, which I did in the lobby of a living room, and it had the curved arch doorways. Okay, so brand new brush all the time. As I said on the last video, $17 is not going to kill you. But I tell you what, you show up in a house with brand new drop cloths, new tools, your customer notices, especially if they're paying you the price for your labor, if you're among the top bidders for the job. They're looking at your stuff. This is a hand masker, and this is masking paper that you pull out like this, while the tape is attached to here, and you get a very nice protective tool to cover what I'm going to show you in the video. So I'm not going to explain it when I'm doing it. I'm showing it here because I only have two hands today. Okay? Now, what type of brush was this? I happen to be partial to Worcester Pro, which is not this. Worcester Pro, which I bought in the last one, and the Purdy. Okay, I like medium stiff. Okay, this is frog tape, and it's low tack. Now, it's not cheap, but if you go cheap, you get cheap, right? And this is the caulk I showed you before, clear, right? And any caulk gun will do. Okay, now we're going to get ready, and I'm going to show you how to avoid having a halo effect on your paint job, which is really a color difference from the main part and the perimeter. The perimeter, if you look at the top of your video, that's your perimeter. Watch this. That's your perimeter. Now, you know painters, what do? They cut. Then they take a cigarette break. While their perimeter is drying, they come back. They don't cut twice. And they start rolling top to bottom. They do a nice job rolling because that's their thing. But afterwards, if you look at their perimeter, you will see a shade differential between the color here and here. And that is because either they only used one coat of paint here and two coats on the wall, or they used two coats here or one coat here and let it dry and then filled it in here. Or there's one other thing. What do? Oh, they brush this here and they roll the rest, leaving this much with one type of finish called brush stroke, even with the best brush. And they leave the part here with what's called roller stipple, even using the finest roller. What I'm going to show you in this painting series is that, yes, you should brush the perimeter, but then right after you do that, you're going to roll. The brush is just to get, here's what the brush is for, to get this much at the top, because you can't get the roller in there, you'll hit the ceiling. But ideally, if we could just paint with a roller, if we're using paint, brush, and roller, ideally you'd want to roll the whole thing. But since that is not practical due to the ceiling, hitting the ceiling and the adjacent wall, ideally, that's all that should be brushed. See that? Even though you're going to brush like this, that's fine. But when you roll, you're going to roll. See my perimeter here? That's your screen. I'm going to paint with the brush just an inch from the next wall, an inch from the ceiling, and then I'm going to roll the rest so that in the end, the finish will have the same texture all around the perimeter as in the center, which is called stipple. If you don't have that, if you don't do that, what you will get is something that I have come to call angular, what the heck is it? Hold on a second, I don't want to waste your time. Let me stop the video. I know what I call it. Angular flashing. Many of you have texture, right? Even if you're not in the USA, lots of people have textured walls. If the texture is not applied at the same angle, I'm facing the camera, that would be perpendicular to the wall. The wall is here, I'm applying the texture this way. As soon as I go like this with the applicator, I'm sending the texture onto the wall at a different angle. The difference is going to be that the painted surface on that texture, which is not applied at the same angle, and perhaps not at the same distance as it is all over, is going to be a variation in what appears to be color, when it is in fact a variation in the angle at which the light reflects on the wall. Just take a mirror. In an extreme example, hold a mirror. If you have a boat, you know you're supposed to have a mirror. And you flash the sunlight into someone's eye. But if you do this, it's not flashing in the person's eye. Why is that? The angle at which the mirror is receiving the light is different. And so if the angle at which the texture is reflecting light is different here on your screen than it is here, guess what's going to happen? Well, the light reflection will be different here than here, and it will appear that somebody rubbed a towel against your wall, or somebody brushed up against it with their arm, when in fact it is simply the difference in the little texture that's on the wall is not flat. It's not flat. I hate to go into this long thing, but for those of you who stayed through it, you just learned something that took me years to learn. Okay? So, with that in mind, let's continue. So, with dark paint, you want to get those areas where you need the brush and you got to be aggressive with it. You want to get them coated with your first coat, okay? And with a dark coat like this, you don't want to be second coating it until this is dry. Let me try to show you why. Let me try. Okay, that's just about dry. Well, we need something wet. What will happen is, you see where the underneath paint is coming through? That'll happen on your second coat if you paint it too fast. So you want to let the darker paints that you use dry completely before you pull the paint up with your brush. Okay? So you don't want those stroke marks, even though this is a great brush, you don't want those stroke marks on your wall, right? So even when they dry, they're not going to be that dramatic, but you'll still have brush marks, but I'll show you how to get rid of that. So we're going to take our clear caulk and put a thin layer against the tape. And for those of you who never did this before, the reason for this is to prevent the paint going under the tape, okay? And you want to make sure that you don't leave a ridge, okay? So you use a wet finger or a wet cloth or a combination of both, okay? Just take a close look. You see that ridge right there? You want to make sure you knock that down. Have you ever seen that in a house, right? Where guys come in to paint and they leave, oh my goodness, they leave edges. I mean, you know, come on. Wet cloth, microfiber, just drag it along, you get rid of it. Okay. Now, while the caulk is wet, we're going to paint it. See how I'm pulling it in one direction? Your caulk is wet, right? So now I'm going in two, but watch this. Watch what I'm doing here. Go gently in that corner, pull it one direction. Why? If you look close, you see how I upset my caulk that's drying? Okay, one direction. This way you're not going to upset it. Finish it in one direction. Look at how gorgeous, right? Now we'll come to the corner, push it in there, pull, push, pull in one direction. Okay. This is what the angle brush is for, getting in there, look. See that? Now, I'm at the edge, you're not going to be slinging the paint that a ways, right? So, okay, watch one direction, right to the edge. Right. Put a little happy tree in there. You're going up against something like this. This is my reserve down here. Now I'm gonna wet the tip of the brush, right? Watch this. I'm looking at the wall. Watch this. Don't go too slow. You know why? You're gonna mess up your line. this dries, we can perfect the line. Although it looks pretty good right now. While you're whispering, I don't know. Shh. Feather out those brush marks. Okay. Now, this is your wall. It's 20 feet wide, 30 feet wide, whatever the case. Same scenario. A drying first coat, almost dry, right? Okay, caulk is still wet. Okay, here you go. This is what you're gonna do. The longer the wall, the more you need another guy. Okay, let's go. This is what you're gonna do on your living room wall, your bathroom wall, wherever. Okay. That's my second coat, right? Now, I ask you, if you're new, wait till it dries. You'll know if you have to wait till it dries. If you can see through the color, because that means you pulled the color off. I'm going gentle, okay? Gentle, gentle. Okay, let's do it from here over to the middle. From the edge toward the middle. This works with every wall. Shh. Okay. Look in the corner now. That's why I'm telling you to wait till it dries. So if you're not good at finishing, just wait till it dries. Okay, let's do this. Now, beautiful brush, right? We wet the filaments before we began using it so that the paint doesn't stick and dry against the filaments. Now, ideally, you will wet your roller outside, spin it with your garden hose, but I'm doing the same thing that I'm asking you to do with the garden hose, and that is I am loading the fibers of this roller by wetting it and pushing the paint down into the roller. Okay, you can do this on your wall. Now, if you're gonna do it, choose an area and just roll the product and let it dry. Because you're conditioning your roller. That's all I'm doing there for. In addition to getting a nice coat on this wall, right? But what I'm doing is getting the fibers wet. Okay. Now, remember I said that we're going to use our brush, right? And I said that 1/2 inch, remember? We're just going to use the roller. Ideally, we want the roller to do the whole job, but we can't. Look at that. Look at that beautiful finish. Do you see what I mean? Look at that. Do you see the direction I'm going in? All right, I'm going up and down to get that first coat in there, but look at how I'm going to finish. Watch this. Look at that. See that? One direction, top to bottom. Don't stop, no interruptions. Okay, all the way to the wall. See that? You're gonna do this in your living room, your bedroom, and everywhere else. And that's what you're gonna get. Oh, gorgeous. That's practically dry up there, right? Now, why are we going sideways, Spencer? Well, obvious reasons. Look at the top of your screen, that's why. Now, do we paint sideways? You could. But if you paint sideways in one section, you have to do the rest sideways, right? For consistency in the finish, okay? But since this is our first coat, you don't have to be that particular, right? We're getting all the way to the bottom, you see that? You understand why? We want to have consistency. Look at that. Are you a fanatic too? Good. Me too. Oh, why are you going vertical? Because it's easier. Look, watch this. All the way toward, right to the middle. All the way over. Same pressure, same speed. Everything's the same. Everything. Look at that. Gotta do it like that. Get yourself a small roller if you want to get in there. Okay. Okay, Spencer, why are you starting left to right now? Doesn't matter. It's the finish stroke that counts. Watch this. Okay. Alrighty. Oh man, we just touched the tongue. That's alright. You see your brush strokes? See that? That's why you want to use the roller. That's what I'm talking about. Look at that. I proved my point. Right? And that's why we want to use the technique that I talked about. Okay, now, even though you saw multiple coats go on, that's our first coat. That's our first coat. We cut it a couple of times, right? And you know, this is where I purged my roller. And now I'm putting a second coat of our first coat. I know it sounds confusing, but it's not our finished coat. See, we have too many white marks. That's our first coat. But what I'm teaching you in this segment of the video is consistency, consistent pressure, consistent speed, and how to avoid the brush strokes and why we use the roller versus the brush. In other words, if you're going to use a brush, use it on the whole thing. And good luck with that. But if you're going to use the brush, because you know we have to get up there, because we can't get the roller in there, well, you're going to roll over where you brushed. Now we're painting this side with a different color. So if you see me get it on there, don't worry about that. We caught our tape. Right. Okay. Okay. Very nice. I'm thinking about getting an afro. What do you think? There's a guy who paints on YouTube. He's deceased. But he had an afro, and he's very popular. Maybe I could be like he is. Or was. What do you think? Put a little tree there. Yeah. That's a happy tree. Okay. For those of you who are painting this, but not this, you could put some tape over this, and then you can use a knife. Which will just give you the edge. Push it down firmly, and then I would use a foam roller. I would not use a brush like I'm using, because I think my brush, actually, let me just caulk this. I'm just trying to show you, if you guys want to prevent paint from getting on this side of the wall, you never know, you might be I will do it as if that's the case. As you're enjoying the time I'm giving you, please click on like and subscribe to my channel. Okay? Wipe the excess off with the wet cloth. And now we can use our brush. Otherwise, the brush is going to push the paint underneath the tape. But if I weren't going to use the caulk and the brush, I would simply use a foam roller, which just gently pushes the paint onto the corner without any tape. And so that's what I would use. I get it that this stuff takes time, but if you guys are spending all that money on the paint, you know, and everything else, you may as well spend the time to do it well, right? What do you think? Now, what I'm doing right now, I think will be our last coat just on this little strip here, because we've applied the millage required to cover it. Millage is thickness. And you don't have the issue of the roller and the brush here. So it's pretty much finished. Let's see how we did on our corner. The reason I say that is I just want to show you how the corner came out. If this is all you came to see. So as you can see, it's a pretty reliable technique. Not too bad, right? I wasn't breathing when I did that. Not too shabby. Not too shabby. Still wet. We're gonna do a final coat, and then you'll see what I mean by joining everything together. Before I begin my job here, I just want to tell you, I didn't do this. Somebody got sloppy with white caulk. I don't know if it's 100% silicone or if it's paintable, and I don't want to find out. But that is a caulk line that I will be finding out if it's paintable. It looked paintable because it didn't look very, very shiny. Okay? So I didn't do that, but I did put the tape there. Now, let's continue here. If you breathe, you'll mess it up. Breathing is no good. Breathing is no good. Because when you breathe, you move. Okay. Change of plans, so the customer wants the ceiling painted as well. Now, here's another way to keep the paint off of this side. In the middle of your screen, you'll see the middle of the brush, right? That's the part that's going to apply the paint. If you do it from up there, you're going to get paint on this side. Let me try to show you what I'm talking about, okay? So look where my release point is. That is, just try to maybe slow the video down, and you could see the part of the brush that's actually applying the paint. I don't want to do this, look, and then come off. I want to hit that corner with the hard part of the brush and then take it down. See? Because the hard part isn't going to go on the other side, but the soft part, well, won't it, right? Okay. Okay. We're almost there. We're going to give this one more coat. Why so many coats, Spencer? Well, with dark colors, you definitely need 2 coats, but you know what? You really want to be a superstar? I know this is going to really upset people. Give it 3 coats, especially on texture. I'm telling you, your roller doesn't, if you're on texture, which this is not texture, but if you're on texture, give it 3 coats if it's dark paint. You'll get a beautiful, beautiful product at the end. Okay, let's do one more time, okay? So what I'm going to do is go around now. Now that my brush is just gonna slide because all this porous paint has been filled in very nicely. So it's not gonna grab the brush. It's gonna one more coat on the perimeter and then roll in between, boom. Do the same thing around, pull the tape off, show you how we did. Now let's not forget the goal. We're gonna do one wall at a time. Now picture this in your big room, wherever it is. Okay, we're gonna treat each section as its own wall. Look at that, look at how the brush just slides down now. See that? Because we filled in all those pores, this is just our finished coat, okay? Look at that, look how gorgeous. This is now just to unify the sheen, okay? That's really all we're doing. What do I mean by that? Well, remember our brush strokes? We don't want that. We're gonna now get rid of them and go over them with the roller, okay? Okay, that wall is done. Now we're going to do the same thing here. Okay, that wall is done. Now we're going to quickly do the perimeter. It'd be nice if you had a helper just to go over these things because these are time consuming. See how we did. As you take this off, you don't want it going back, springing back onto the painted surface. So you want to pull it where you're peeling it rather than you want to peel it away from the wall. So it doesn't pull at your paint. See how I'm peeling it? Let's keep going. See, that paint is wet. All right. Okay. Okay, a little tricky.